Welcome to the Latin Wealth Podcast, a podcast dedicated to educating the Latino community about entrepreneurship, investing, and business.
What's going on, Latin Wealth family? Welcome to another episode to Wealth Wednesday. Hopefully you guys are doing good. I'm feeling blessed and well. We're going to be hitting on some dope topics today, such as Apple. We're looking back at Apple. We spoke about them a couple weeks ago. The iPhone 16 isn't selling as well as Apple may have hoped for. We're going to be diving into why that is. Also, X, also known as Twitter, is now worth less than 25% of what Elon Musk paid for it. And we're going to be diving into that as well. But fun fact, Twitter is not a publicly traded company, but there's still ways to determine the value of the company that we're going to kind of sneak in a couple of different ways that people are looking at the value of the company. Welcome back to you were here last week. Not even welcome back. My guy, Jeremiah, how you feeling?
I was like, wait, where was I at? Was I missing?
Welcome back.
It was out of body? No, I'm happy to be here, man. And I'm excited about these topics because my guy, and then anytime I can kick the can on Apple, even though I love the stock, I love to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We're also super excited about October 12th and 13th, which is going to be the Latin Wealth Summit. Link in the bio of this podcast episode for tickets. Virtual options are on sale. And I'm not just saying this to sound gimmicky and marketing scheme, but it is limited. Space is limited. All right. For this first one, it's going to be limited space. I can't say that about next year or the following years, but for this one, space is going to be limited. So I would highly suggest that you get your ticket as soon as possible because I'm telling you, space is limited. My guy Jeremiah is going to be speaking on one of the panels. It's going to be fire. And we're just going to have a vibe. All right. We're going to have a good time.
I mean, the fact that it's virtually available is going to be something that you usually don't get until post, right? Post for a whole bunch of other different festivals and things like that. This is while it's actually happening, you're there, so we're cutting the cost of you traveling. Obviously, we want you there in Dallas. We'd love to just catch the energy, catch the vibe there in person because it's going to be phenomenal. But just think about it. We're cutting out that cost for you. And now virtually you can catch all the gems that's going to be dropped from phenomenal speakers. I'm not talking about myself. I'm the bottom of the totem pole. This list is crazy. No, it's not Cap. It's not Cap. Bottom of the totem pole. I like my counterparts, man, I'm taking notes, guys. So this is definitely something that if you can't be there in Dallas, if you're in Dallas, pull up. You in Houston, pull up. Anywhere in Texas, Mexico, pull up, right?
Oklahoma.
But if you're not, we got it virtually. And I'm just, Chris, I don't know. I don't know anybody else that's doing that. I don't know anybody else that's giving it live virtual. That's big.
Yeah, giving it live virtually. So one of the unique things we're going to do, and we're going to jump into these topics right now, is when you come to the event, we're going to have breakout sessions. So we're going to give you the option to go to this side of the room to learn about X, Y, and Z, or this side of the room to learn about this. And then virtually, we're going to have another speaker on there that's specifically speaking to the virtual audience. That's something that the in people unfortunately won't get, but that's going to be exclusive for my virtual people out there. So link in the bio, LatinWealthSummit.com. Looking forward to seeing all y'all there. Let's jump into the iPhone 16. All right. So the week that I spoke about it, you were, the schedule was off. You weren't on here, but I was kind of talking about the iPhone 16. We want to jump back on it. It's not selling as well as Apple may have hoped. Now, that's an interesting headline in itself because I'm interested to see like what was Apple really hoping for what they put out, right? So Apple has been counting on new artificial intelligent features to make the iPhone 16 a major hit, but pre-sale estimate points to a more muted early response than Apple had hoped. Apple needed the iPhone 16 to be a big seller after years of sluggish iPhone sales. And let's be honest, y'all, long gone are the days when loyal Apple fans will line up to trade in their new devices to get the new phone every single year. I don't think people are doing that as much. I don't even think the days of people Thank God. I don't even think the days of people lining up, waiting in line for the new Apple, like some Jordans, is a thing anymore. But let's be honest, the company hasn't given us a reason to upgrade since adding the 5G connectivity with the iPhone 12. I have the iPhone 13 right now, so it works perfectly fine. I don't feel the need to get the 16. One last thing about the numbers. Apple sold just an estimated 37 million units in the first weekend of iPhone 16 pre-sales. Sounds like a lot, but that's down more than 12% compared to the same period last year. 12% is a huge number. Um, Jeremiah, what do we do? First of all, what are your thoughts on that? And I also want to get your thoughts on what do you do if you're Apple or if you're a similar company in a situation where like, yo, I think we squeezed the most that we've gotten out of this product. What do we go from now? What do we do? What do we do now?
The thoughts on what they've done so far is it's not working, right? We talked about obviously several episodes ago, it's been months now, but we talked about them coming out with the Vision headset and that didn't hit. I mean, and so if you're Apple, you've really got to go and create some type of think tank or something because everything that they're doing is bombing. Like
Mm,
it's not working. And it's funny, Chris, because I remember you and me talked about it and we were saying and you were like, "Well, I think they can still float." I was like, "Bro, I don't know. The trend that it's showing me is that they're headed down a very slippery slope
mm,
down,
very,
and they've been doing
very.
that ever since they came out with that headset. There were so many, just so many resources and so much time that was poured into the release of that, and it didn't pan
Mm,
out." And then I think that for me personally, I think a lot of the efforts and the time and research and development was going toward that headset instead of
mm,
actually thinking about
yeah.
innovative processes or innovative ways to create new features on the phone. And so what you've gotten since I think the 13, so 14, 15, and now the 16, it's the same phone.
Game
There's
phone.
no reason to purchase it. I mean, you can update your operating system and get everything that that you had. And so I think that if I'm them, right, that's where they're at. That's what I think about it. I think if I'm them, I don't know if you guys remember, but when we spoke previously, I said Apple should have looked into purchasing a Disney. They should have looked into purchasing their Apple TV, maybe furthering the expansion of their streaming services with some exclusive television or exclusive programming, maybe even NBA or some type of something that they have that'll bring in the viewers, or bio something. And I said biomed, right? Their Apple
Hmm.
Watch is getting with a EY Lilly or somebody, and partnering with them and looking at different market shares because the current process and the way that it is, it's not working. And by the way, China's kicking butt because their phones have invaded the market that they usually would look at on the international
Mm,
side. So the international sales, it's a huge slump because the most populous country right now, which is China, their sales are dying in China because
hmm.
Huawei and all these other companies have
Yeah.
expanded and come in with better features. So
Yep. Yeah,
that
it's crazy. Let me know if you could allow me to share my
yeah,
screen. I
yeah,
want to
yeah.
share something with the audience real quick. But while you do that, it's very interesting that you brought up China as a competitor because on the episode that I was speaking to the audience, Huawei, they came out with the I think the first ever tri-folding phone.
Yeah.
And now I think it's $2,800, pretty expensive phone. We know that. But usually when these new devices come out, one of the first of its kind, they're usually expensive, right?
Yeah.
So increased competition, increased innovation. Also, one of the biggest things that I was disappointed in with the iPhone 16 is we spoke all about the Apple intelligence, Apple AI, how this
Yeah.
could be something that can help them out. The phone wasn't even shipped with Apple intelligence. It's not going to be that update is not going to be available, I think, until next month with iOS 18.1. So I think they missed the mark with that one with not shipping the phone with that update to it. I mean, that's what people were getting excited about.
If I'm Tim Cook, I'm sorry, somebody's got to get fired. I mean, it's just been way too long, right? And I knew you were gonna pull that up. This has been way, and the reason I knew you were gonna pull that up is because that's why what I was leading to right now. Someone has to get fired because I don't know if
Hmm.
it's a mole inside of Apple or if this guy that's on the screen is just that much more intellectually superior to everyone that's in that company. But this guy's been kicking their butt like for a while now. It's bad.
Yeah,
Like
it's bad. So
it's so
I
bad.
wanted to I wanted to bring this up. If you're listening audio, it's all good. I would highly recommend that you go check out the video on YouTube. But what we're bringing up is an article by The Verge breaking down Meta's big tease, right? They're pretty much breaking down Orion, which is the impression demo of the AR glasses, right? So we spoke about how Meta has the Meta headset, which I think a couple weeks ago they just released the Meta Quest 3S, so like an
Yeah.
updated version. In addition to that, they had an event where Zuckerberg was teasing these AI glasses. They look damn near like a thicker version of Ray-Bans. And I mean, like it's absolutely incredible. And shout out to Carlos, who's on the podcast. He was at that event and he was talking about how inspiring it was to be in that room with him. I could just imagine the energy
That's
when he
out to
pulled these
Los.
out. What you think, Jeremiah?
I mean, I was looking at the actual demo, the video
Yeah,
when he ran through it, and I just think Zuck is just light years ahead of everybody else.
yeah.
It's funny because when we first started the podcast, we were talking, and we were talking about it, and I said Zuck has been taking a lot of licks. You really got to, and he was so quiet, for years, for like 2 or 3 years, everybody was suing him, and he was quiet. He wouldn't say anything, and you were just trying to figure out, man, is it over? Web 3 kind of took its dive, but he during that whole time he was doing what Apple's failed to do yet, and that
Mm,
is he was learning and he was adapting, right? And so everything that he's done, it's weird, but it's very methodical, right? It's like every time Apple thinks that they can come out with something or throw something,
it's crazy. It's crazy.
he's so far ahead of them. And
He's
then he
playing
breaks
chess.
down their product. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah. No, I was just saying he's playing chess. He's playing
Yeah,
chess.
and he breaks down their product. Like he lets them come out with their product and then breaks down the flaws in their product and why his is better. And there's no response. And so, like I
Mm,
said, I don't know if it's a mole, and if it is, it's a good mole because it's working. But for whatever it is, Zuck is killing it, man. And Apple, you're on the clock, man. You've been on the clock for a little minute. I loved it. I love the stock. I'll never buy your computer or your phone, but I love the stock. But man, you got to do something. Something's got to happen. Chris, you as a loyal Apple person, to hear you say,
Tough,
I
man.
don't
It's
feel a
tough.
reason to get the 16, that should be
It's
a
tough.
worry. That's tough, man.
It's tough. It's tough because I consider myself a tech guy. I like
Yeah,
having new tech things,
yeah.
and I don't feel the need to grab that new device. I mentioned in the last episode, I feel like most people that are buying that device are, you got these YouTubers, these tech guys that are reviewing the product. They're buying it for that reason. They're testing it out. Maybe it's somebody that is just a hyper loyal Apple fan.
Sure.
But outside of that, most of the responses, most people don't feel the need to buy a new phone every single year. They're maybe looking at like a 3 to 5 year cycle with their phone, maybe even 7 years, to be honest.
I mean, let's be honest, as long as you can upgrade the operating system, you really don't have a need for
Yeah,
it unless there's
yeah,
some
that's true.
feature or a fourth camera or some AR enabled camera on the phone or something like that. Hint, hint, idea.
Mm,
But just trying to create things that are innovative, right? You and I
yeah.
had a discussion going back and forth, and we were talking about innovations, and it had to do with a totally different industry or whatever.
Hmm.
But when it comes to tech, and when it comes to leading in this age of AI, you have to be innovative. And
You got to be.
I'm starting to feel that they're getting left behind. It's weird.
Yeah, man, it's very weird to see. Like they are known as the innovators, right? So, and like you said, Mark Zuckerberg, shout out to him. He's just been absolutely crushing it. He's
Yeah.
definitely playing chess, and I think he's just being super strategic about everything he does. If Apple comes out with something, bet I got something for you that's completely gonna blow you out the waters, right?
He's been in this bag
It's
for the past
unbelievable.
like 2.5 years, man. Zuck has been even, hey, man, health is wealth. So maybe, you saw Zuck getting ripped up, and yeah, and he said
Yep.
we're about to go into that. But this other person that we're going to talk about, he
Yeah.
said he
Let's
muffled.
get into it. He
So
said he wanted to
he
rumble
wanted to
with
smoke.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, he wanted to
Yeah.
smoke,
He
and
wanted to
I
smoke.
imagine there's a billionaire Apple text group where they go back and forth with each other, Bezos, him, like I'm sure they all have each other's numbers and they talk
Right.
trash to each other. So I
Got
I
to.
wish I was in that group, be a fly on the
Got to.
wall. Yeah,
Fly on the wall. I know Mark, he going crazy in that group chat. He
talking
said,
trash.
I got the guns, I got the glasses. What else you want? You know what I'm saying? Taking care of my health. So yeah, we mentioned that there was some rumors that came out that him and Elon Musk should do a boxing match. Which personally, I think that'd be the most viewed sporting event in history, in
Oh
my
God.
opinion. I think that'd be the most viewed sporting event in history. That'd be up there
Feel
with the
bad
World
for I
Cup.
feel bad for Elon, unless he's gonna have
Oh
some
yeah, yeah,
AI
yeah.
enabled
It's
health.
ugly. It's ugly. It's ugly.
Yeah.
It's ugly. But you may also feel bad for Elon because X is now worth less than 25% of what Elon Musk paid for as a company. A newly released disclosure report from Fidelity's Blue Chip Growth Fund, which has an equity stake in the social media company, has once again adjusted the value of that holding. By Fidelity's calculation, the site is now worth less than 25% of the $44 billion Musk paid for it. So remember, we were at the top of the episode. I said, hey, there's still a way to kind of determine the values of these companies, even though they're not public. Shout out to Fidelity for giving these numbers. So when Musk bought Twitter, Fidelity invested $19.66 million. At the end of July, it says that those shares were worth just $5.5 million. That puts the total valuation of X at $9.4 billion. All right, with a B. So, yeah, I mentioned he bought it for 44 billion, and now they're projecting the total valuation of X is 9.4 billion dollars. So X is not a publicly traded company, as I just stated. So Fidelity's disclosure report is one of the best ways for onlookers to get a sense of the social media's site's value.
You got SpaceX, right?
Yeah.
SpaceX, if you look into that, SpaceX has been having some problems lately. Their shuttles, they've been having some issues actually with their shuttles, deconnection or something. It's been they've been grounded essentially. Uh,
Mm,
and I'm saying that because something we talked about this probably a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago, but we talked about Elon's focus, right?
mm,
And even in another episode, we talked about the bandwidth. Elon, you're not going to be watching this, but maybe you will. I don't know. You need to refocus again. You have ADHD, extreme. We know that, understand. But you need to refocus. And the reason I'm saying that is because don't even focus on Twitter. Twitter is what it is. X is what it is, unless somehow you had some magical plan to where it integrates some type of new technology or something with your engineering, or somehow it integrates into charging ports or something. I don't know. Cool. But outside of that, you got to refocus because that was a bad investment when he made it. And I remember us talking about it, and I said, I don't see how
mhm.
you could pay that much money for it. I don't know what you'd get out of that. Um, you know, with Dorsey buying that from him, it was secondhand to me
Mhm.
anyway. And really, you only did it so you could try to compete with Zuck. And
Yeah.
yeah, you bet. And I'm not, and Threads isn't even doing anything like that, really, right? But I mean, Zuck still wins because he's got other platforms. And so
Yeah.
I don't know, man. This when I'm looking at this, Elon needs to try to evaluate this properly. If he can go public and get it off his hands, man, get what you can get. I can't see Twitter, or excuse me, X. I can't see it rising too much higher than this. I think it's only losing value. I think Elon should try to get rid of it, man. If he can go public and try to sell it off to somebody, just get rid of it and move on.
Yeah, I think you said it yourself. I mean, I get why he bought Twitter. It makes sense. Have a media company, controls
Sure,
the media,
sure.
makes sense. But the focus is just Neuralink, X, Tesla. It's just like how much I get that you have a team, but how much effort can you put into each one of these projects? On top of that, he's a family man. He got a whole family. So I don't know, man. It's crazy. He did say in a memo sent out to his team, something about how he wanted to incentivize people that were actually working hard with stock bonuses or something like that. But a lot of the employees, they weren't feeling that. They were just skeptical about it. I guess he's made promises before in the past and hasn't fulfilled them. I'll be honest, if I got an email like that and I don't know how to, I'll just be like, all right, whatever. Well, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, how much harder do you want me to work? He's one of the CEOs that has clearly came out that is known for overworking his people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I
The
don't know.
problem
Very
is
interesting position.
there's no relatability. Elon,
Yeah.
because of his condition, maybe Asperger's or maybe even the ADHD, which quite a few of us struggle. I actually have ADHD, but you have to learn how to deal with it. And
Yeah.
I think that maybe these things are starting to come. There were some subconscious issues that now are starting to come into play. And he's older now, and so as the body begins to degrade, you can't bounce back from those things. I think he needs to seek. And I'm not. You guys are gonna like it ain't that deep. No, it kind of is actually.
It is.
You need to seek help. There's some counseling and some things that he needs to work with to try to get that in line, because um, yes, you could be maniacal with your work process and with your workflow and wanting to just work, 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 but that's you, right? It's the difference. And we talk about this all the time. Kobe and Michael, their work ethic versus everyone else. You can get
Mhm.
upset with everyone else, but when you really elevate, you realize other people aren't you because you're you for a reason, and they're not going to do that. Elon has to lock back into that flow, get the counseling, get somewhere where he can get his brain back because he's the visionary, right? And it
Mhm.
doesn't matter how hard you work your team, they're not you. They're not the people with these
They're
ideas,
not you.
with
That's
these
it.
and so they're not ever going to be you. And so if they can't do that, you don't work them harder. What you do is you integrate and you learn, shifts and you learn schedules and you learn how to, use AI, which you're so into to delegate things and do other like that's what you do seemingly. But I think Elon needs to get back in touch, and he's spiraling, and he does this from time to time, man, and we see it.
Yes.
And this seems like a bad spiral. It started off with them talking about him on the ketamine or whatever, right? The drugs or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
then it goes to like, and it's so levels of this, and so it's like, hey, man, get back, take the time, get yourself centered, go get some counseling, get yourself structured, and then get back to doing what you need to do, which is being a brilliant, just innovative minded person.
I agree. And, I just can't imagine. Well, we can't imagine the power if he focuses on one. What he was focusing on, even SpaceX and
SpaceX.
Tesla
Yeah.
at the very least, like how much he was pushing that
Sure.
forward. So, I mean, I'm big on, I'm pretty sure I have ADHD as well. At least that's what my wife says. But look, we look at, like you mentioned, Mike, Kobe, LeBron, these guys spent the majority of their time of their career focusing on one thing, being great at basketball. Once they
Correct.
retired, we can focus on business, we can focus on storytelling, sneakers, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and they can be great at that. So I know he reminds me of like a Kanye where he just has so many different ideas and he wants to execute on everything, and some things fall by the wayside.
It's no wonder why they're friends. They're actually pretty
True.
close. They
Yeah.
understand each other and they speak a language that most people don't understand. And, but what I'll tell you is that it doesn't matter how great you are or how phenomenal you are, even though you're vibrating higher or you're on a higher plane, you have to be able to make it relatable to the common man because that's who works for you, right?
Mm,
And so you got to figure out how to motivate people. I would say this, and I've said this before. This is for anybody in business, Elon included. Guys, the book called The Five Love Languages, it
mm,
strictly platonic, but if you read that book, you learn what motivates people, and it helps you to
yeah.
be a better leader once you know what actually motivates people to grow and move forward and do well in business or excel in whatever it is. You have to learn how people move. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And just my opinion, I could be completely wrong, but Elon Musk doesn't strike me as somebody that necessarily has that skill set to motivate a team member.
Nah, he's not motivated unless you're motivated through negative reinforcement.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He's not going to give any positive reinforcement. But and what's strange, I'm that type of person. I actually prefer somebody to cuss me out and tell me that I'm a piece of crap, right? That works better for me. I don't want you to tell me like, oh, you're doing great. And like that, that's corny to me. I don't want that. And so negative reinforcement works for me, but it's a certain type of mindset of person that has to have that. That doesn't work for 98% of the world. Like it just doesn't. If you're not encouraging them, and I understand that, like you have to encourage people. Hey, great job. Maybe we didn't do this, but have you thought about going in this direction?
Right.
And from all accounts of what we heard, Elon doesn't do that.
Doesn't do that 100%. But what we will say is, and what we do want to encourage you to do is October 12th, 13th, Latin World Summit. Link in the bio if you guys want to pull up virtual tickets available. If you guys learned anything from this episode or enjoyed this episode or have been enjoying the consistency of Wealth Wednesday and Latin Wealth, we would appreciate if you could just share this with one other person out there that needs to be a part of this community, learning, growing, and be around like-minded people. If you could do that for us, that would mean the world. And anything else, Jeremiah?
No, just super appreciative of we as we continue to grow. You guys are taking this journey with us. Me and Chris talk about it all the time, how appreciative and grateful we are for every single follower that we have. And as he said, as we continue to grow this out and expand, there's new episodes, there's new shows. We're doing a Latin Wealth Summit. This is just something that has been a reflection of you guys pouring your love and appreciation into us. So we appreciate it.
That's it. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.
Please, guys.